Welcome into the Boardroom Podcast. I'm Ward 6 Alderman Ben Piper.
I'm Chad Wicker, Ward 4 Alderman. How you doing, Ben? It's been I think we had a...
We got good weather now.
Yeah,
we
man.
got sunshine and all kind of stuff going on.
Man, I
so
think
it's
the
good
last
stuff.
time we did a show was, 1st of February, end of January. I've been, got a new job, so I've been kind of busy. I think you've kind of a busy time for you. I think you recently
busy time of year.
Went to the great state of Florida for a conference, I
That's
believe.
right,
And,
yeah.
So what's going on? How's soccer?
Stay busy. Soccer starts on this Saturday, February the 24th. Soccer season's supposed to start as long as the fields will cooperate. As long as the weather continues to cooperate, we'll be playing some soccer on Saturday. So, coaching both my girls' teams and.
Well, I think I told you before. My youngest one, Grayson, said that he does not want to have Daddy coach him. And so Kenny Porter is coaching the team, and we were out there Sunday at the fields. The fields look great. The wooden fence, it really looks nice. The parking looks good. So we're going to continue to make improvements there. We've talked about that on this podcast, about lighting and other things we're going to do there. So
there is something. There was something.
Like 5 teams or something, aren't you?
Just two teams. We got a 12U team and a 6U team. But they did have I guess with that winter storm, there's a pipe that busted, I think, out there or some kind of deal in one of the restrooms. So if you go in one of the restrooms and you notice there's been some recent work done or some work that still needs to be completed, that's what's going on. But all the plumbing's been fixed out there from what I've been told, so we should be good to go. We won't need any kind of portable restroom facilities, thank goodness, out there. So, but yeah, should be a fun start. More kids than ever have signed up for soccer this year. And then I think Jared sent me numbers on baseball, softball, and t-ball too, that they're up over last year and the year before that. So definitely a busy time of year for Hernando Parks and Rec.
I'm coaching baseball, so Adam Emerson and Brian Trotter, they better watch out. The Wicker team is coming this year. We're going to win the league.
The 2002 4A Offensive Player of the Year is coming for you.
Drew Wright, all of them, they think we got this. Okay, we got this.
Just look, don't ever just send them. You know, that's my advice from my baseball coaching days. Don't tell them to stop at these bases. Just keep them running. Ain't nobody gonna catch the ball.
That's right. You're right. You're especially 6-year-old baseball. So if they make it, if they don't strike out and cry, and actually get on base, they usually do.
If you
score.
hit it, it's a home run.
That's right.
That's the only offensive philosophy I've got. Just all gas, no brakes.
That's right. All gas, no brakes.
All gas, no brakes. Well, what? So we had our second.
We would be in trouble if we didn't mention.
Okay.
The soccer team won the state championship.
Of course. Huge accomplishment. That team faced some significant adversity throughout the year that, you know, people are probably, not everybody is 100% aware of, but they had, they have good senior leadership on the team. They've got a really talented group of kids. First ever boys soccer state championship for Hernando, 7A championship. They went into the tournament, from what I understand, they were a top 10 team in the state, but they had to beat the number 1, the number 2, and the number 4 team in the state along the way, all on the road.
Yeah.
To do it, so they're kind of a little Cinderella story a little bit. But I hate to say that because usually that's kind of a negative connotation. But
they beat Clinton, and when they beat Clinton, that was a big deal. Clinton, I think, has been pretty dominant in the 6 and now 7A soccer for a long time, and I think they're I listened to another podcast who the guy's son plays for Oxford, and he mentioned the record that I think they've only lost like 10 games in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, they've been pretty dominant. I think they won 2 or 3 state championships in that 5-year period, so they've been pretty dominant. And when they were able to beat that team, that was a big deal. And they went to Oxford, beat Oxford at home in Oxford, and then went down to Ridgeland and beat I think Northwest Rankin. Northwest Rankin's a huge school. It's probably 1,500-1,600 kids, so good bit size, good bit larger than the city of Hernando school. You know, Hernando is now 7A, but they're a smaller school, so big deal. And congratulations to those boys for a great season. I know they were really creative with some of the stuff they've done. I know they shot fireworks off, and I think they did isn't the Cubs raise the flag up or whatever when they win? They did that, and I know a lot of the parents of some of those kids, and so great group of guys, and congratulations to that. I was a soccer player too. I played in Hernando High School soccer.
Man, you lettered in like every sport.
I did.
I'm telling you what, it's
What's the
a
guy?
sight to be seen. But
What's Napoleon Dynamite? What's the uncle there?
Uncle Rico.
Uncle Rico.
Yeah,
That's
he
what
could throw
I see.
football over the mountains. Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, it's a huge accomplishment, and we took time. I think during our meeting on Tuesday to recognize the Hernando Middle School that won a national championship down in Orlando. So we may have to repaint a water tower like home of all the champions, or I don't know, that Championship City or something like that. All the
Champion Town or something.
the
Championville.
road to the state championship is through Hernando, pretty much is what it sounds
Well,
like.
it's a talented group. I know our baseball team's doing well. Softball team won the state championship a couple of years ago. Now soccer, football teams is a predominant team in the playoffs every year. So,
And I'll say that I'm not. This is in no way me, trying to take credit at all for any of the current success. But there were people like myself back in the day who did a lot to make the Hernando Soccer Complex a reality. It was opened in 2015, and it's now you have a state championship here 9 years later.
Fruits of your labor.
It's because there was volunteers and people that really cared about bringing that sport, further, into people's and had a vision that, look, this can be a big sport here.
I think I'm not sure. Somebody posted a picture of Facebook. I think are 5 or 6, 7 of those kids when they were 6 years old playing in Hernando's soccer league, and now they're on the state championship soccer team.
That's it. The volunteer coach. Look, listen. Being a volunteer coach, it's not about winning and losing as much as people make a big deal of wins and losses or whatever, but it's just about teaching these kids a sport, and then they get hooked into it, and then they want to be the best at it, and you look up 10 years later and they're in there playing for a state championship. So I didn't coach any of those kids, but it's definitely very looking at my daughters and how excited they got about them winning a state championship. Like, that could be you one day. You just got to work towards it. And
it's a great area for soccer. There's several competitive programs throughout the county that are pretty strong. I think the Lobos and I'm gonna miss some, but there's several competitive teams, and they play soccer. It's growing so big. It's just like competitive baseball. So
I think we got close to 600 kids sign up for soccer this spring. So
that's a
big number.
Big number.
Big number.
All right, you want to jump into are we going to talk anything about the meeting we missed on the 6th?
Yeah, I know we mentioned the. We can go back to the 6th. I know that was a fairly quick meeting that we had.
Well, it wasn't a whole lot on there. I think probably the biggest thing on there that we talked about was something from the consent agenda there, where we are looking to possibly replace or repair the track at Kirkendall Park. We're applying for a grant there to redo the track. That's approximately $170,000 grant that we'd have to pay half of to
and also the lighting out there. It's the lighting and the track.
And the track to redo the
continue rehabbing
that park is, especially since the trees have been cleared there, that has really been a popular place for the residents. I know when I used to work at the sheriff's department over there, I'd drive by there all the time, and people were there all times of the day walking and running around that track. So I see Ben running all the time. You a big runner, so.
I'm not running on any tracks.
Huh?
I'm running to the refrigerator for a snack. That's about the only place I'm running to. I need to get better about it though. But yeah, I know a lot of people use that, and Hernando Young Women's Club's planted some trees out there as well.
They've invested out there, and
we've got a bathroom coming that's out to bid right now.
You hadn't really gotten credit, but you were a main guy that got the parking lot paved. I know you really worked hard with the school board to get that paved. So.
Yeah, I appreciate the school board working with us on that.
Yeah, I think we split it with them or whatever. So, one thing that the mayor has done that has kind of been, I think, informative to me is they've had these end of the year department heads come and speak. And so at the meeting on the 6th, we had the fire chief talk about his plan going forward and some of the stuff we've done over the last year. And then Austin Cardozi talked about the planning department, and, all the new applicants and how the city's growing. And then Jared Barkley talked about the numbers and how, baseball kind of flatlined there for a while, but now it's kind of going up. So I would encourage our listeners to go to the YouTube page and maybe fast forward to that middle part of that meeting there and bring that and talk about that and listen to that part of the meeting where they talk about those numbers and things. But as far as the meeting there, I think that was relatively it. So anything you want to talk about before we move to the next one?
No, I think that, we have we have the right people in those positions with our planning director and our parks director and our fire chief. They're all very strong leaders, very professional. So that'll definitely come across, if you watch that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chip, the mayor made that a point that certainly a professional group of department heads we have. I noticed that too, and not mention anybody. Lee. I think Lee had done the meeting before. He did a great job. He controls one of the larger departments. So anyway, so let's, I guess, get to the meeting on the 20th. Had a packed house there, and I think we had a special guest started off. Man, you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think that was why there was people there, but
yeah.
my daughter Ramsey and one of her friends from Hernando Elementary, a couple kindergartners, led the pledge, and just really proud of the job that she did. She was real nervous about it, so she
When
she
you
made
walked
it happen.
off right before the, I said, "How you doing?" She said, "I'm nervous." I said, "Don't be nervous." So
Yeah,
she was nervous.
She was nervous, but
They did great.
she made it happen. But and then we had had a big crew in there from Hernando Middle School. We mentioned earlier they won the national championship in game day cheer competition down in Orlando, and then got second place, I think, in a traditional routine. So, national runners up. I mean, just a really, really talented group of girls. Before the season started, they were selling these really nice blankets.
Did you get one?
I got 2 of them.
Oh, man.
They are. I'm telling you, if you didn't get one, you missed out, because they are. When it dipped so cold, we broke those things out, and they are A+, man. So I was happy to. But now I can say I bought a blanket from National Champion.
That's right.
The National Championship blanket. So, but that group was, kudos to them, their parents, a lot of time and money invested in cheerleading, and, it all paid off. Huge championship for them. We had some planning things that were all tabled. So I think that's important to go ahead and there's a few planning items that were all ultimately tabled. We had 2 aldermen that weren't present.
Well,
at the meeting,
you're a big supporter of the Crestview property.
I'm not, Chad. Come on, man. Don't
everybody
ever
knows
say that. I'm not. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not in favor
So
of that one.
there's essentially 3 items that are, I guess we can kind of talk about them just briefly, but 3 items that are kind of, I guess, going to have some community, have some opposition to them. So.
There's a gas station that's proposed at Getwell and Holly Springs, kind of right there by that nursery. I think it passed the Planning Commission, correct? The Planning Commission recommended approval of that one, I believe, on the rezoning.
I think they initially tabled it for, what's the gentleman who used to be the former city planner, worked out a deal with them, and I think they approved what the compromise was.
Okay.
And I just, my position on that, we've approved, it seems like, 10 gas stations since I've been on the Board of Alderman. I'm really going to be reluctant to vote for another one. That's just my position.
I certainly
as
have
Miller said, that's Wicker's position.
Right. I certainly have some concerns about the location as well. And my planning commissioner was in opposition of it even after the the amendments and changes were made. So I'm certainly going to back him up from that standpoint, and we certainly have some similar viewpoints on it. But we'll have to see how the vote goes, and it can certainly pass. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. But we had the Crestview subdivision that you mentioned earlier. It's a 82 home, I think, currently R15 rezoning that's out there, kind of near Forest Meadows, Notting Hill, Milam Lane, and Thousand Oaks, in this kind of heavily wooded area over in there.
Between McInville and Jaybird, and the area there in between there. So.
Definitely a lot of opposition to that. Planning Commission recommended denial, but that one has been tabled, I think, until our April meeting, from what I understand through talking with our planning director. So we'll get back to that one later. And then there is the
one in my area there, Elm and Robinson. There, a gentleman there wants to put a duplex style townhouse, and there's some opposition from the neighbors there. And so we'll address that. I think I'm trying to think her name is Amy Brown spoke at the last meeting. I think in her opinion, it's a spot zoning issue for her. So we're going to talk about that. We did have a community meeting kind of with the local residents there several weeks ago, and talked about some of the issues, some of the concerns. So I think communication is always key. So.
Well, and the main thing with it is that when you have I know the 2 aldermen that couldn't make it were for various reasons, health issues and things like that you can't predict are going to come up. But you certainly don't want to make, in my opinion, it's a little unfair to make zoning decisions that affect the entire city with two
Yeah,
aldermen missing. I mean, it is something where you want to kind of table it, get their opinion on it. And we can't talk to them outside of the meeting because that's there's issues with that.
Well, Doc is in the legislature, so he has been calling in. He wasn't able to do it this particular meeting, and then I think it's no secret that Mr. Andrew had recently had knee surgery, had a knee replacement, and he's recovering. And I think he was in a lot of pain on Tuesday. He went to the chamber event there, and I think was in a lot of pain, so he wasn't able to make it. And so we felt it was best to come back when everybody was there and could make a decision on those issues and speak their mind and speak their opinion, because that's what the elected officials are supposed to do.
Right. But that's the planning items that
I
were
think
later
that's
on
why
in the meeting that
that's
people
why
were
everybody
listening
else
in
was
for.
there. That's
Right.
I think that's what everybody got the
wanted to see
meeting
what
for,
happened.
so.
But so we'll have more on those. I think either the first or second meeting in March. Those will come back in front of us, and we'll talk more about them.
We had a proclamation honoring Jim Anderson, who's kind of the, as Chip said, the father of the local library here in Hernando. He was the director of that organization for a long time and kind of helped build that.
The library's named after him.
I don't know,
right?
Ben, you probably don't remember the before that building was built, the library, what they used to have. So
Yeah, I don't. But the library's named after him, correct?
yes, that's right. So, we had end of the year updates from the police chief, the animal control officer, the judge, the court system there, and so I think
All very busy departments.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the biggest takeaway from all that.
Absolutely. So, the chief of police, I think, put some numbers out there that I think was reported in the paper. I think you told me about, or somebody sent me the the Daily Memphian or whatever did a story on that, the increase in the traffic stops or whatever. Jessica talked about the animal shelter and the new animal shelter and how they've grown and gotten that place to a position that, from being a shack behind the fire department to being, a professional building that she keeps clean. And she's got some goals, I think, next year about getting her staff certified and things. I'm big on that. That'd be great. And then the Judge Tony Nowak and Cassie talked about the court system and how they've kind of made some changes to address the increase in cases by having a trial days and things like that. And they're trying to be creative so they don't have to add another court day, which would be an expense to the city. So, but some of their numbers was really kind of amazing. The number of trials they're doing and things like that. The traffic tickets they've ran through in their office. So, again, I would encourage people to go back and look at that meeting and see those numbers.
And a lot of that volume is coming from one department kind of feeds another in terms of how busy they are. When the police are making more traffic stops, then they're running into people who maybe they've got a warrant for their arrest for something that happened somewhere else, or they if they have drugs or drug paraphernalia on them or whatever the case may be. There may be multiple issues there, and it all ends up in front of our it all ends up in the court system, and so they're seeing increased volume of tickets written and citations and that sort of thing. They've got to deal with it one way or another. So
those two departments work hand in glove together. So obviously
that's right.
The number of tickets feeds into the number of citations, the number of cases they have to issue, and the fine money and things like that. So it they work very close together. I think they both mentioned they work very good together. I've never heard any issues. I'm probably a little biased, but Cassie, I think, is the best court clerk in DeSoto County. I worked with all of them for years, and she does a great job. Their court moves people really quickly. So
well, it's important for people to know too. I think when we took office, we made some changes to how the city attorney position, how the duties and responsibilities played out, because it was kind of a dual role. They were a city attorney and a prosecutor, and we kind of stopped that practice and added another prosecutor position essentially in the court department to make it a more efficient system. The one ask they had, I think, was to give them a room potentially, and we'll see what we can do as far as that goes. A room where the prosecutors can kind of conference or whatever, and we'll certainly have to look into that and see if we can work that out with the county. But and then the police department, I think as well. If the goal is going to be to have to run traffic stops or to be more pervasive in the community and be out and doing stuff, you're going to need feet on the street. You're going to need more people. And we've certainly added more people to that department as well. So it's everything just kind of playing out from when we first from where we first took office, and some of the decisions we've made have, resulted in these numbers and in these departments, conducting themselves the way they are.
Well, you want a police department to be proactive. You want them
Right.
out there, and I think he mentioned that he wants, people say that they see the police everywhere or whatever, and I've heard that, but that as he's mentioned, that's a good thing. That means the police are active. They're making
Right.
stops. They're investigating things. So.
And I don't feel like, if there's a couple other communities north of us, Germantown and Piperton, I'll just say it, people know if you speed in Germantown or Piperton, you're going to get pulled over. I don't think it's gotten to that point necessarily in Hernando where if you're going 3 miles over the speed limit, you're going to get pulled over. But, hey, look, if, you are going 15 miles over the speed limit, you're probably going to get pulled over and get a ticket.
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly how many police officers he said he's added. I know he just talked about last year, but I think since we've been on the board, we've added around 10. I think 10 police officers, something like that.
10 full-time positions. It's been
they went from like 43, 44 officers to well over 50 officers. So, and then some of that was school resource officers, I know, but there is certainly.
What do they do in the summertime, though? So
Yeah, that's true.
they're
that's
not always
true.
school
But I mean,
resource
I think this board has really committed to public safety, and we've invested in that with not only the police department but the fire department adding another ambulance, and that kind of talks into the next issue we had on the agenda, Ben, that we probably need to bring up is we're going to increase. We voted to increase the ambulance fees.
in line with what the insurance companies will pay, and in line with the county.
Yeah, and so what happens as insurance rates come out, those what they will pay will go up, and so it's a way for us to build their insurance and get the adequate amount of money, and those fees go back, and that's how we pay for the paramedic salaries and the ambulance and things like that. So the next thing, I guess, Ben, you have anything else on the ambulance fees? Is the road discussion. Essentially, we have spent or earmarked already $568,000 or so in roads to be paved, and we have about another, what do you say, 550,000 or something to do. We need to earmark another $1 million, so we're going to do about $1 million total, not counting some of the
other things that we
that we've already done. And so we had to kind of take our list of 1.5 million and kind of get a third of it. So had a little debate there about taking some roads off. I think you did you take any off, or you?
I just had one on there.
You get whatever you like. My wife, you just get whatever you want, man.
I had one on there out of the list of 15 or whatever that were on there, and I just asked for this to be completed. But I think that some of these are past due. I mean, we have talked on and on about streets and just trying to catch up on these. We've talked about the idea of getting an engineering company to come and do an assessment, so we kind of know where the worst streets are and start there. I think there's some value in that, but also there's we talked in our meeting, there's some common sense things that you have to apply as well, and things that only we know as local officials. Like, for example, there's a couple roads on there that are right near the Whataburger that's apparently going to be sprouting up anytime soon. Yeah. You definitely don't want to pave a street and then have concrete trucks riding over it within 6 months, tearing them back up again to build a business. So that's something to be taken into consideration. So we took those two off. I think the Weatherby folks that live in Weatherby, the paving is coming, I think, on the next budget year, maybe even in the fall. And I think there was some that was in your ward that had to be put off till a little bit later.
We're going to try to get them done in the fall, but it's kind of a matter of when the money hits, and we get.
Ultimately, everything that was taken off there equaled about $800,000 worth of paving. So that has already been moved to next year's budget. Yeah. So as we're entering the budget cycle, in the next 6 months, we're going to have to look at, all right, that 800's already there. We've already talked about putting them off and whatnot. There's not going to be a whole lot more that can be added to it.
Right. I mean, we're going to keep fighting that fight. I don't know how we get out of it. We've spent more than we ever have before. We're continuing to invest in that, but also just like we just discussed previously. I mean, we've got public safety issues we had to invest in. We've had to look at salary adjustments for different other departments because we were just behind the ball, and so we've tried to do the best we can with the money we come in and be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. We've done all this without raising the property taxes at all. So that, and then we do different fees for ambulance services. That all helps offset some of the costs that increase with that. So
and ultimately, like when whatever we're looking at, whatever department we're looking at, every alderman is going to have a little bit different opinion on it.
Sure.
And we ultimately have to agree on some kind of plan going forward. Because I think, some of it, like for myself, it makes a lot of sense to just pave an entire neighborhood at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Because then hey, that neighborhood was paved in 2024 or 2025 or whatever year it was. And then you say, well, you don't have to touch it for 15 years. Right now it's done, over and done with. And you can just say, these are the 3 neighborhoods that are getting paved, and then these are the major streets that are, getting repairs or upgrades or whatever else. And it's a lot simpler to do it that way. But the other part of it is that paving an entire neighborhood may cost $500,000.
That's right.
So you can't do one in each ward, because that'd be $3 million. That's more than what our paving budget is. So who's going to be missing out each year? And then some wards don't really have as many neighborhoods in them, so it doesn't really make that principle can't really be applied.
Yeah, and we have a couple of big the Mackingville by the high school. We have that big project hanging out there that's tying up a good bit of our money, and we're limited in what we can spend, and we've been fortunate that the Mississippi what's it called, Mississippi Infrastructure Improvements funds, which is basically a percentage of the sales tax you pay on Amazon or when you buy stuff online, and you pay a sales tax now, a percentage of that goes back to the cities and only can be used on infrastructure projects. And that's what we've been using to try to catch up. I think we've made some ground, but we still have some more to go. I know, a couple of weeks ago I was talking to some people and they said they hadn't really noticed any additional paving throughout the city. And we spend $3 million last year. We're going to spend another, similar amount of money. I think we budgeted $3.7 million this year or something like that. So it's but again, perception is reality. If the citizens say they're not noticing or not seeing it, maybe we're not doing a good job of putting it out there so people understand and knows.
I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I've had, as serving on the board, is that it is very difficult to communicate everything that's going on.
Yeah.
There's stuff there's phone calls that we get and emails and calls that we make, and there's problems that get resolved on a daily or weekly basis, and having that follow-up with that specific person, sometimes that's easy to do, but when it's a much larger issue, there's so many people involved with it, it's hard to get the information out to everybody. And we're in this age of, we're in this communication age where it's easy to, post something on social media or whatever, and you hope that it gets out to everybody that it does, but some people don't use those forms of communication too, so it can be difficult.
It's a lot going on, and I know the mayor's going from meeting to meetings or whatever, and sometimes, I don't know about you, but I learned about things in the newspaper. Like I think recently we were talking back and forth yesterday about a crime lab deal. I don't know anything about that, but apparently we're committed to putting some money in a crime lab.
Yeah, I think that will come up on our next agenda. The district attorney, I guess, has a plan for getting some scientists to help with the turnaround time for drug-related cases if they get something that they think might be marijuana but needs to be tested for THC or whatever. I don't know all this stuff. This is what. But apparently the turnaround time right now is more than a year in a lot of cases, and sometimes the statute of limitations runs out before they can get the results back, or they get the results back and there's continuances or whatever, and people are walking away scot-free, basically, more or less. And we definitely don't want that to be the case. We want to hold people accountable, and I think that's what the district attorney's committed to, and so he came to us with a plan, I guess came to all the cities with a plan, the county with a plan of, let's put a little money towards having our own scientists to do this thing, to do just our testing and get the results back more quickly.
Sure. And I agree with that, Ben. Like I told you, man, but I think that is a state function of government.
Right.
We start, supplementing the state function of government, we're going to get ourselves in I think, a bad position. But
potentially, yeah, I think so. They have something similar, I guess, in Jackson County and Rankin County, so it's definitely not unprecedented to take the steps. And I don't disagree with you that it's something that the state needs to address. But as you know, you can have the entire DeSoto County delegation pulling in one direction, and the rest of the state pulls in another direction. You're going to lose every time.
Yeah, we've got to correct that over the next 10 years or so. Get a better.
And I think we've got a delegation down there now that is going to work better with some of these members of the legislature to get some things done. I don't know how high that is on their priority list, though. I think right now the priority is on the sewer issue and the I-55 expansion. That seems to be the biggest DeSoto County issues. There's some, Doc's mentioned some things about ROTC programs in the high schools, and he's, Mike McClendon, I think, has mentioned some things about other initiatives that he's looking at, and with diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the state universities, defunding those and that kind of thing. So, if that can be the priorities too. So everybody's got to make those decisions, though. That's why they're in those seats. That's why they've been elected, to make those decisions. So, but yeah, I think I totally agree with you in terms of the state needs to be looking at it as well, because we apparently have all these surpluses, and that's something that they were going to peel back state income tax on, because we have surpluses. But if there's needs, then how do you balance all that out?
Well, one thing that's in my mind is, obviously the crime lab is a big issue, but also DeSoto County needs some kind of mental health hospital or crisis center up there. I know the county has a plan, but again, that is a state function of government. We have got to, the state has to fund those things to an appropriate level. So, and anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, it's been a busy start to the year. I feel like we've had this ice winter storm deal that I think caused a lot of people had to have pipes bust. I know that even in city and county buildings had some of those issues. It kind of put everybody behind a little bit, and we've all been trying to catch up ever since then, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a busy year. I mean, this is our last, I guess, full year in this term. We'll have to. I don't know if you've made your mind up yet or not, but we'll have to decide about running for re-election and have, I'm thinking, until February 1st of next year to make that decision. And we'll be talking about that over the next month as we continue doing the podcast. So I guess that's really all we got for these two meetings. Ben, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I think that there's a lot of events coming up, I think, in the springtime, and we can kind of look at those. There's A Fair, there's, I think Palmer Homes Mudbug Bash is coming up. Yeah. There's a lot of events coming up. DeSoto Arts Council has some events coming up.
They do the Flock Around the Block run for the
I may do that one. I might just come out there and do it just so we can put to bed that I never run. Okay. I might just have to do it at some point. I can't keep up with you now.
I'm doing a half marathon tomorrow in Jackson.
Oh, are you? Okay. Yeah. What's up with that?
Mississippi Blues Marathon. So my
goal
is up. So I ran the St. Jude half marathon. I'm running. Yep. I'm running this one, and I'm gonna do one more half marathon, and I'm gonna try to do the full marathon at St. Jude next year.
Wow, that's a huge man. I can't even imagine that would be a.
You could do it, man. You can do it.
Oh, I think if I really had my mindset on it, and I, took some things off my plate, I think I could potentially do it.
I got you.
Got a full plate though, man. I tell you what, this is the city's part of it, and work's part of it, family life, something. It's just balancing it all out.
Yeah, coaching teams, serving as an elected official, and working full time. But I enjoy it, man. I think you do too.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think we're seeing we're making some progress. I feel like we are getting some things done. I think people see that, and so that part is exciting. So.
And I know we talked a little bit soccer, but real quick, the lighting at soccer, you should see that move forward in the next few months, seeing more lighting in the parking lot and on the fields out there. Yeah. That will be permanent lighting, not the temporary ones that we put out there.
And just real quick, I remember Jared, the parks director, sent me a video of them actually doing the scalping of the baseball field. So that should be done in time for the season to start. So they just had, I think, the registration just ended yesterday or Tuesday or whatever. So.
I went out there and met the guys that were doing it, and one of them used to be the turf manager for the city of Gulfport.
Yeah,
and now his son is the current turf manager at the city of Gulfport, and has this as kind of like a side business, I guess, where he goes in and consults and fixes fields for people. So, they seem to definitely know what they're doing. It's going to take time. It's going to take money to get the fields in better shape, but we're certainly committed to doing that. And there's a lot of volunteer efforts coming up to get batting cages out there and get some of the other items replaced at the baseball and softball fields to get them in a better place.
Right. Well, you want to end it there, Ben?
I think that'll do it. Next time, I did talk with our chamber director, Siboney. She has committed to being on a future show, so we'll try to get her for next time, talking about some of the new businesses coming to Hernando and the Hernando business community. So for now, I'm Ben Piper.
I'm Chad Wicker. Talk to you later.